Good afternoon, everyone. Today is April 22nd, 2026, and for today's video, I wanted to go over the 2026 Virginia Congressional Redistricting Amendment and perform an autopsy on the result from last night's election. So here on your screen, you can see the Decision Desk HQ's new Votes beta system. That is a live reporting system that Decision Desk HQ uses to show the results of all the elections, and they decided to run a test last night on the 2026 Virginia Congressional Redistricting. So here you can see the results from the election, where the Democrats ended up winning by around 2.5 percentage points, closer to 3 percentage points, which is around a 3.5% overperformance from the 2024 presidential margin, where Kamala Harris ended up winning by around 6 to 7 percentage points. So that means Republicans here only really lost by around 3 percentage points, outperforming Trump. A lot of Democrats might have thought that this election was a sure thing, which in all totality, seeing that they did end up winning by around 3 percentage points, was correct, but the margin is what tells the entire story here. Many Democrats saw that last year in the gubernatorial election, where Abigail Spanberger was able to beat Winsome Spears by over 15 percentage points. Many of them were looking at this election very optimistically, thinking this could possibly be double digits, possibly be Democrat plus 10 to Democrat plus 15, and even the most conservative polls showed it being around Democrat plus 5, showing a somewhat close race, but one that's always going to be in the Democrats' margin, whereas in last night's election, we actually were able to see that this race was mostly a toss-up the entire way throughout until Fairfax County ended up posting their results, leading to the Democrats overtaking Republicans and taking the lead by around 3 percentage points when all was said and done at the end of the day. Now let's move forward to the Virginia results on the New York Times, where you can actually see it broken down more so county by county and city by city. You can really see that the Republican stronghold was very strong in the rural areas of Virginia, where a lot of the Trump voters ended up turning out and voting no on the redistricting referendum with all of their people in all the counties and communities. Whereas Nova really told the rest of the story here, where Loudoun County, Fairfax County, Alexandria, and Arlington County ended up netting Democrats hundreds of thousands of votes in pure positive gain for the Democrat side of the referendum, all voting yes. Where at the end of the day, Democrats ended up coming out victorious by around 3 percentage points to gerrymander the state of Virginia. Now, how biased is the redistricting referendum here and the gerrymandering that is being proposed here by the Democrats that just won this referendum and will be enacted and put into place for the 2026 election? This gerrymander ends up cutting out Republicans and making them lose 4 entire GOP seats that they have around the districts in Virginia, leaving them with only 1 seat in the 9th district. So as you can see here with the gerrymander based off the 2024 House results, Republicans end up losing every single seat that they used to have and only having the 9th district left. Where in the 9th district, just off the gerrymandering based off the 2024 results, you can see that the Republican in the 9th district would probably win by around 51 percentage points. Whereas in the 2nd district and the 3rd district, where Republicans previously had spots and previously had GOP members as incumbents in the seat, would now automatically be favored to Democrats by around 2 points, and here to Democrats by around 30 points, where Democrats ended up making a vote sink here. And the next somewhat competitive district will be the 6th district, where it's possibly going to be R plus 1 percentage points, which in a Democrat year could end up not being a factor at the end of the day if Democrats are projected to win the national popular vote by around 3 to 5 percentage points, making this so that Republicans have been drawn out of virtually all of their seats in the state of Virginia. Now in the state of Virginia, as mentioned before, in the 2024 election, Republicans at the congressional level ended up winning 47.6% of the vote and ended up winning 5 of the congressional districts and ended up getting 5 seats in the state of Virginia. Now, this was an overperformance compared to Donald Trump, where Donald Trump ultimately only ended up winning around 46% of the vote in Virginia and losing to Kamala Harris by around 6 to 6.5 percentage points across the state, which means that Republicans here, at least on the congressional level, overperformed Trump by around 2 to 2.5 percentage points. Now, this could end up being a disaster for the Republicans here, as they will only have 1 member left, the sole incumbent in the 9th district, as previously mentioned, which was drawn to be a GOP vote sink, where it's going to be R plus 50 in the next election. Now, what does this mean for the national implications? For the national implications, we can see that the opinion polling shows the Democrats are projected to win the 2026 midterm elections by around 5 percentage points, with some ratings giving them around a 3.5% chance all the way to a 5.6% chance. Right now, this is the lowest the Trump administration is presumably going to be. It's in April, the Democratic summer of their polling and their highest advantage is about to come upon us. The war in Iran is currently happening. The gas prices have been increasing lately across the nation, and this is probably going to be one of the valleys or one of the low points of the entire Trump administration, if not the lowest of the entire administration, as can previously be seen in Trump's previous term, where he was the most unpopular in the first year or two, right before the midterms. But really, once Democrats overtook control of the House in the midterms, Trump began to increase his popularity the longer his tenure in office lasted, and actually ended up at a pretty decent approval rating by the time the 2020 election happened, if it wasn't for COVID. So with that being said, I would say that the projected opinion polling here would probably be closer to a 3.5%, maybe 4% margin for the Democrats here by the time November comes. So I would predict here that the opinion polling would actually show that it will be closer to around 3.5 percentage points or 4 percentage points that the Democrats would win by the time November comes for the 2026 midterm elections. Now, what does that mean in the 2026 midterm elections? If we go to the House ratings published by all of these political pundits, the Cook Political Report, Inside Elections, and the Sabato Crystal Ball, along with Race to the White House, you can actually see their projections and their ratings for each of the races. So starting off with the Cook Political Report, you can see here that Republicans are projected to get 202 seats, whereas Democrats are projected to get 217 seats. And this is counting all of the congressional districts and all of the redistricting that has happened thus far, excluding the Virginia redistricting that just took place last night. Now, with that Virginia redistricting, this would make the Democratic seats that are projected increase by about 3 or maybe 4 seats right here, which could bring the Democrats to a floor of 220 according to their rating, and Republicans at a probably floor or ceiling at around 199 seats, which could, in all likelihood and almost all certainty, give Democrats exactly what they need for a majority. A majority could be written in the books for Democrats without even looking at the toss-up seats because of the Virginia redistricting. And the same thing could be said for these other pundits here, where it shows Inside Elections, Sabato, and Race to the White House, all showing Republicans and the Democrats at varying starting floors here. But the Democrats and the Republicans seem to be, at around the 200s, the low 210s for both the Democrats and Republicans, with the Democrats being a little bit in favor in most of them. Now, for the toss-ups, considering this is probably going to be a Democratic year, you would assume that Democrats will win the majority, if not the vast majority, of these toss-ups. Now, these toss-up races here could range from around 16 seats all the way to 10 seats. So that means Republicans could be stuck at around 199 seats, maybe low 200 seats, whereas Democrats could exceed their projected margin and make it all the way up to the 230s or maybe the high 220s for their seat count in the 2026 midterm elections. Now, what are Republicans going to do in response to this? Republicans have actually been planning redistricting in the state of Florida, where Ron DeSantis has already previously called a redistricting session to focus on the redistricting effort in Florida, where he was initially projected to draw Republicans 3 to 5 more congressional seats that are all gerrymandered in favor of the Republicans. And after seeing the result from last night's election, you would see that Ron DeSantis has even more incentive to do so, just to even out the results of the Democrats in the referendum election. Now, this Politico article here shows that DeSantis ended up delaying the redistricting session all the way until next week because of the pending Supreme Court decision where they plan on weakening Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act that essentially gave minority districts a lot of leeway and power in some of these southern states, where all of the states, whenever they were to redraw or organize their congressional districts, they were forced to give a minority district to the African American population in all of their states or other minority groups in their states, essentially making it nearly impossible for Republicans to fully gerrymander the southern states to the extent that they would have liked to. Now, with that being said, Ron DeSantis does expect, and so does the majority of the public, with around 93% of the public believing here on Call Sheet, that the Supreme Court of the United States will indeed weaken the Voting Rights Act. The only issue here is DeSantis has an issue with the timing, where he doesn't know if he's doing it too early or if he wants to wait for the decision to come out. Call Sheet also predicts that the decision will come out sometime before June 1st, with a 75% chance that we'd hear of that decision. But regardless of when the decision comes out, it's hard to see DeSantis's redistricting and gerrymandering effort here failing, because if any lawsuit comes to counter it, in almost all likelihood is nearly certain that the Supreme Court of the United States will strike down Section 2, and any lawsuit would be declared moot once they see the Supreme Court has actually issued a decision on the case. Now, how many seats are the Republicans going to gain here out of Florida? So we just mentioned that Democrats were able to gain an entire 4 seats from Virginia. But what's the floor and what's the ceiling for Republicans in the state of Florida? So if you look here at the state of Florida, you can actually look at the election results from 2024, where Republicans ended up winning 57.8% of the vote to Democrats' 42% of the vote. Now, Democrats only had around 8 seats that they ended up winning in the 2024 elections, whereas Republicans won 20. And if we look at the closest races here, we can see that all of the Republicans here pretty much won their races by double digits, with the exception of District 13. That was around 9 percentage points, which was the only race where Republicans did not win by over 13, 10, 11, 12, 20 percentage points in their elections. Let's say that DeSantis only wants to gerrymander and cut out 3 Democrat districts and make them for the GOP. You can look right here at District 22, District 23, and District 25. The Democrats weren't even able to win by double digits, so all DeSantis needs to do is draw a few more GOP voters in there to flip it to the GOP side, and it will be a very easy and very non-invasive redistricting gerrymander that DeSantis can do just off those 3 districts alone. But if Republicans wanted to go for the ceiling and carve out 4 to 5 seats for the GOP, the next place that they can go to is District 14, where the Democrats only won by around 15 percentage points, and try to draw more GOP voters into that district, or go to District 9, where Democrats only won by around 12.5 percentage points and draw GOP voters into that district. Because Florida has so many Republican voters, DeSantis really can make the choice here and decide how far he wants to go with this aggressive gerrymander. Does he want to take a conservative 3 seats out for the Republicans, or does he want to push all the way to 5 seats for the Republicans in order to make up for the Democratic wins that they just had in Virginia that ended up hurting 4 Republican seats? This is something that DeSantis is going to decide, because DeSantis himself mentioned in this article that he is the one that is going to submit a map to the Florida state legislature. The lawmakers here have actually indicated that the governor's office will be submitting his map to the legislator for the legislator to vote on. So this is one of the rare instances in U.S. politics where we can see a governor being the one that actually draws the map, whereas the state legislator just pushes it through and approves it, where it's usually the other way around, where the governor approves it and the legislator draws the map. But here in the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis is the one drawing the map, and he himself is solely deciding how aggressive he does or does not want to get with this redistricting gerrymander. With that being said, one important factor that I wanted to mention here was that this redistricting referendum result from the state of Virginia that we got last night is actually pending Virginia Supreme Court approval, where the Supreme Court is actually going to decide whether or not the Democrats follow the correct process for putting this ballot proposition up for the referendum in the first place. So do not be surprised in the small chance that the Supreme Court of Virginia ends up striking down this result and keeping the congressional maps. But considering the margin and the fact that the Virginia Supreme Court already decided not to hear the case until after the election, it is very unlikely that I see them striking down this result here from this election. Now, with all that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Did you guys expect the race to be this close for the Democrats? Do you guys think that the Democrats or the Republicans are going to be the ones that are going to edge out the victory when it comes to the gerrymandering and the redistricting war? How many seats do you guys think that the Democrats will net in the midterm elections? Do you guys think it's going to be a Democratic wave, or more so of a Democratic puddle in this 2026 midterm election? Please let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to like the video if you enjoyed. And alongside that, make sure that you click the subscribe button down below as well. With that being said, everyone, I hope you guys have a good rest of the week, and I will come back to you all with a video tomorrow. Have a good one.